The bombshell news that the Big Ten has added USC and UCLA has rocked the college football world, and it appears that the arms race between the Big Ten and the SEC is on in full force. And so we are going to look at what's next for both conferences. Let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Jersey Score. My name is Trevor, and we've been on a bit of a hiatus. I've had a lot going on and got a new job, but I'm even on vacation now. But this news with USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten was just too big to ignore, and so I'm going to do a few videos breaking down what's next for the major conferences and what are their options and what are the possibilities as all the realignment continues. So I want to start with the discussion between the Big Ten and the SEC as they continue this arms race to upgrade and see are they going to settle at 16, and if they continue to grow, what potential options are there. First, as we look at the Big Ten, we see that this is the conference as it is now. It really makes sense. It's Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and then they're adding LA, which is just completely wild. It's not exactly... It does seem to be a good fit in terms of academics and culture in that regard, but in terms of athletics, I'm not even sure what the matchup is. Alignment between non-revenue generating sports, and if there's a lot of overlap, I imagine that the two LA schools will be joining other conferences for a lot of those, a little bit more regional. But if the money promises to pay out what it seems to be, and it'll be so much higher that I assume that the two LA schools will be willing to foot some additional costs for travel, but it'll certainly be harder on the players. But since the Big Ten has shown that they're willing to kind of expand nationally all the way to LA, it kind of shows that the possibilities are endless. I remember at one point the Big Ten, at least I remember, was saying that they wouldn't really expand anymore into states that didn't already border existing member states. And so obviously, if that was the case, they've are willing to overlook that for a chance to add USC and UCLA, which makes sense. They're two really blue blood historical programs in both the football, also basketball. So what is next for the Big Ten? Obviously, everybody's been talking about Notre Dame and waiting for the shoe to drop there. Will Notre Dame eventually see the writing on the wall and feel like in order just to compete and to stay in the game in this arms race that they will have to pick a side, and it'll most likely be Big Ten or SEC? Obviously, the Big Ten is a much better culture fit and geographic fit for sure. They've been trying to woo Notre Dame for a long time with no success. Notre Dame is now linked more closely with the ACC in terms of their other sports. In terms of football, they still have the agreement, and they play 5 ACC schools a year. So there will be some work to do if they want to get Notre Dame over, but I think if Notre Dame does end up deciding to join a conference at some point, it would probably be the Big Ten. But I think for that reason, since Notre Dame is kind of the crown jewel here, especially out of the remaining programs that aren't already part of Big Ten or the SEC, that one option that would make a lot of sense would be Stanford. They are one of the top rivals with Notre Dame, and as we look here at Notre Dame's top 10 rivals, according to Notre Dame website, fan site that I looked at, these were top 10 rivalries for Notre Dame, and now there's a few others you could debate, but all these are strong ones. And you'd look at it, if they added Stanford, that would give them 6 of those top 10 in their existing conference. Now, 3 of those are in the ACC, which they're already partnered with. But having 6 top rival programs in their conference, if they were to join, might sweeten the deal, because that's something that they've really cherished, is being able to have the flexibility to keep those national rivalries alive. So I think adding Stanford could make a lot of sense in that regard. Besides Notre Dame, and again, a lot of people haven't been mentioning Stanford, but I think it's one that makes a lot of sense. Outside of those, a lot of people have been wondering about Oregon and Washington. They would also be West Coast partners for the LA schools. Especially Washington, really good academically. Oregon, a huge name brand and ties with Nike. So that really could be a good fit and add some value to the conference. I don't think they're quite ready to bring over the two Northwest schools yet. Everyone's been saying they've really been waiting for Notre Dame and to see what happens there, which makes a lot of sense. The Big Ten could also be waiting to peel off a few programs from the ACC, such as UNC, Duke, or even UVA, which would all be a great fit academically and much closer regionally as opposed to LA or other schools on the West Coast. And so they may be thinking, well, if we can get Notre Dame and then a few ACC schools, that would be a better fit for us than continuing to go westward. But they have already expanded to the West Coast, so I certainly wouldn't be surprised if they continue to expand out there. On the other side of the arms race, we have the SEC, which famously is last year we all know that they added Texas and Oklahoma to an already loaded conference, and really they seem to be set. But with the Big Ten responding to the SEC and adding USC and UCLA, I wonder if it puts the pressure on the SEC to can start thinking about continued expansion and what those moves might be. If the Big Ten is willing to extend all the way to the West Coast, would the SEC want to go for remaining Pac-12 schools, or would they want to continue to stay a little bit more regional since they have so many solid options there? I think that, again, they're waiting to see what Notre Dame does. I think it's unlikely that if Notre Dame joins a conference that they don't go with the Big Ten. It just makes sense for a lot of reasons, but money talks, and if Notre Dame sees a better opportunity and better financial outcome by joining the SEC, I don't doubt that they would do it. So, I mean, now that we see LA schools tied in a conference in the Midwest, really nothing would surprise me at this point. So Notre Dame, I think, is still kind of the linchpin here, just that could really dictate what remaining moves these two conferences take in this arms race to grow, and see if they want to go to 18 or if it's 20 or if it's 24 or what they do. Who knows at this point? But again, I think all the talk is, they could really go towards the ACC, stay at home, and build with some solid brands right there. The names that are thrown around: Clemson, Florida State, Miami. That would really give them a stronghold in Florida with the three top programs there. Clemson, obviously a huge name brand. But if the SEC is able to start peeling away programs from the ACC, which is not easy with the way the grant of rights is currently constructed, but let's say they are able to, they probably look to add at least another program, keep it even. There are, again, programs, UNC and Duke. I think they'd be foolish not to go after them. And then other programs, perhaps a Virginia Tech could be a good fit. So they could pull from any number of those schools if they're able to get them out of the ACC. And so for me, that's what seems to make most sense. If they really want to make a push to the West Coast, they could. But we'll cover the Pac-12 in the next video. So please let me know, what do you think the Big Ten and the SEC are going to do next? How big are they going to go? And let me know if you think that the way that conference realignment is going, if that's a good thing for college football or a bad thing. Let me know in the comments. Please give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe and watch for the following videos on realignment I've got coming out, and we'll see you next time.